Welcome to Homemaking Radio. I've designed these videos so that you can listen as you work. However, today I'm going to show you a few more things. I don't know if it's going to be possible to make it long enough for you to actually get anything done. You can listen as you work, but I do want to show you something, and I'll start out with my teacup. The teacup that I'm using today was something that my grandma had. And she had quite a few of these, and I guess they were called punch cups, but you can also drink hot drinks out of them. And I have matched it with one of those Corningware plates that has a green edge, because I couldn't find a saucer to go with it. They don't really have saucers. In the antique store, sometimes you can get a green saucer that matches it. That's the clear glass. Now, one of the reasons that I don't really care to drink hot tea out of it is because I can't see the color of the hot tea, and here in the U.S. most of us drink our tea without any additives. We just what do you call it? We'll have it straight, we say. And so we like to see the color of our tea, especially Yorkshire Gold, because it's a certain color when it's just right. And so, but I wanted to use it today because it matches the green that I have on today, and I couldn't find. I'm recycling all my teacups. You've seen them all if you've been with me from the beginning of the videos. So I wanted to use this because I hadn't shown it before, and I have several things to talk to you about and to show you. And so I haven't shown you this yet, but if you are shopping at the Dollar Tree, which many of us are, because you can get some things that are pretty good deals and pretty good quality, there are two things that I want to show you, one that you should not buy and one that you should. There are quite a few videos on YouTube where ladies have taken some time to show you what's good and what's not at Dollar Tree. I'm familiar enough with that store now that I can take a friend through it and say, don't buy this, don't buy that, because I've tried just about everything there. But there are two kinds. Many of you have maybe some steel or ironstone that you need to use a stainless steel scrubber to clean with. Sometimes that's necessary. But I wanted to show you two of them, and this is called Scrub Buddies Scours, okay? There are two of them. I want to show you what it looks like and tell you why you shouldn't buy it, okay? That's what it looks like. Now, let me tell you what this is just all a mesh, and these things are just smashed together. These are little filaments that come loose just about as soon as you start using it. They also discolor. It doesn't look silver anymore, and they'll go down your drain. And I'm out in the country, and I'm sensitive about drains, and poor Charlotte and her drain. And that's from an old novel. And someone once showed me in the crook of the drain underneath the sink what goes in that drain sometimes. And even if you have a garbage disposal, it's always wise to take care of your drain. You really don't want metal going down in your drain. These will disintegrate pretty fast. They are just they're just little pieces, I think. I'm not sure what's wrong with this, but it never has worked for me. That's $1. There's two of them in here. So I'll show you in comparison what you should buy. These are called Scours, and you have to look carefully because it almost looks alike. They almost look alike. The packages are slightly different, but these are Scours, and I want to show you the difference, okay? Two for $1. I want to show you this one. It's coiled. Looks like a rose, doesn't it? This one here is the one that gets the little pieces that come off and end up in your drain. Or even if they don't go down your drain, they end up in the little sink catcher, and I don't like them at all. They don't work very well. They come apart pretty quickly. Now this one here is one long string, and it's all coiled together, and it rarely breaks apart. It will come apart and look kind of mangly and look like this after a while, but you can still use it, and it doesn't lose its pieces, and you can use it for a long time. It just doesn't look very nice. But if you are needing these metal scours, this is the one you buy. It's the one that looks like this. It's the one that looks coiled like this. You buy that. Like I say, it'll kind of come apart and look kind of gnarly, but it's a good one. This one here, let me just show you both of them. This one here is really cheap, and it looks okay. Maybe it'll work for you. I don't know. I just wanted to tell you what I thought of it. Okay, and then the other thing that I wanted to talk about, well, I'll just kind of go on and talk, and every now and then have to show you something. So with this homemaking radio, the idea is to listen as you work, and I start out by reminding you to take care of your appearance. Now, a lot of the reason that many women at home start to feel discouraged, or maybe they feel they kind of feel negative, is because of how they're dressing. If you don't dress as though your job has worth, or that you have worth, or that your children have worth, then you don't, and people tend to dress down at home, and there's part of the problem. They don't dress up. So when you shop, let's say you go to Walmart like I do, look for things that have some cotton in it and that look nice. I mean, I have just abandoned anything with acrylic in it. After one wash, it beads up, looks awful. Those synthetics are just not good for your skin anyway. But buy whatever you can that's the best, that looks good on you, and wear it at home. So many times we buy really good clothes and they hang in the closet because they're too good. And they hang in the closet for years and we never wear them because we never go anywhere, quote, nice. But your home is nice. You're making it nice. That's what the purpose of these radio programs are for, to encourage you to make your home that place that you'd rather be. You know, we used to like to go out, and we used to eat out, and before we had children, and then when the children came along, we of necessity had to stay home, and so I learned to make it nice so that it was like better than going out. And you're probably wondering about the new scene behind me. I am changing some things around here because I years ago went to Goodwill and also shopped at the home interior. You know, you went to these gatherings and they would sell you pictures and things, sets for your home, but many of them had glass on the picture, and the picture was just a print. And I had those for 30, 40 years, and I'm gradually replacing them with real canvas because, first of all, the frames eventually break down or come apart, and second of all, there's a glare on the glass because my home has faces west and there are a lot of windows, so I wanted to have things in my home that looked like the area that I live in, and also that didn't have a glare on them, and I'm really enjoying it. And don't get excited because these are not expensive and they are not real paintings. They're done on I believe they're a print on a piece of canvas, and then they're stapled onto a frame, and they are then embellished with a little bit of paint here and there to make it look embossed. And but that's good enough for me because I want something. My walls really need something, and I love the is so vivid, and that's what I want. So it looks like I'm in a new house, and I'm enjoying changing everything over, and I'm handing down my older pictures to people who'd like to have them that I know. So that's why it looks so different here. So back to your appearance. You know, if you'll fix your home up so that it's nice, then you'll be more motivated, I think, to wear something nice. And or vice versa. If you wear something nice, then you'll think, well, I should make this a nice home. I'm going through it and it's nice. I should dress for it. But dress for your children if you have children at home. This is so important. You might not think they notice, but they love their mother to be pretty, and they're excited when they get up, and they'll go and see what you're going to wear that day and try to match it. And I'd like you to experience that because it's such a joy. So if you need a little boost, then that's what you need to do. That's one thing you can change. Maybe you can't change the circumstances of your life. Maybe you can't change the critical personality of people that you see every day, or that maybe you live with, but you can change your clothes, and that's one of the things that's so much easier to change, and it's something you can do, and it might help your attitude too. And so we also go into the home. So I want to talk a little bit about the home right now. And I was waiting for Mr. S. he likes to go get a massive amount of printing done for something that he does every week, and it's right across the street from Hobby Lobby, so he lets me walk around in Hobby Lobby if I want to hitch a ride with him. And it's always so nice to walk around in there. The music is nice, and people are paid to be nice to me. And I think that's so funny that here in America, everybody has to be nice to you in business because they need your business. And if they make it a nice experience, you'll come back. And they stand at the door. They hire people to stand at the door and greet you, which is really, really nice. It's something we need to learn too. And so there's more possibility that you'll be back. So I walked around Hobby Lobby and I was noticing so much about the home. Hobby Lobby is all about the home. Most stores are, aren't they? All about the home, even Harbor Freight, you know, and even the tractor store. Basically, they're all about what we do at home. And so I noticed so many little signs. I didn't buy anything, but I took pictures of them. And it was home sweet home. There's no place like home. And it's so good to be home. And they weren't expensive. Everything there is actually 40 to 50% off of what the price looks like. So I just came home and I wrote one down. And I want to tell you why I did that. So nice to be home. And I used one of those chalk pens. Now chalk pens don't always come off. They don't wash off of some chalkboards. So if you buy a little chalkboard there, they're not expensive. You can go to the party section and get chalkboards and you write a saying on it. That saying is staying on there because these things cannot be removed. I've tried some of the stuff they say spray on it and everything because it depends on the board. If the board is porous or not porous, something about that. Anyway, I wrote this down and I'll tell you why. And I think you should too. I think you should write down all those sayings. Nice to be home, home sweet home, no place like home. Because the people that come in that home, whether they're children or teenagers, need to be reminded this is a great place. But I think we as women didn't want to brag. We didn't want to make people think that we thought we were great or better. So we just kind of play down everything. But I really do think you ought to reinforce the home, especially if you get some disgruntled people, maybe some teenagers, maybe people who are starting to think they are something when they're not, and put some signs around. It's good to be home, home sweet home, Lord bless our home. And those, it wouldn't be expensive to do that, and you can make your own. So ladies, because they're going to spend a lot of time staring. I don't care if they're little children or big children, they're going to spend a lot of time looking, and that's going to enter their minds. And that is so important. And we leave books and things around to help their minds. That's another thing you can do. Leave some very edifying and lovely books on the coffee table. So your kids, they might not pick them up. They'll look at them. I mean, they'll look at the titles at least. So think about that. Think about reinforcing your home because it's greater than anywhere else. And so I did that, and I somehow just made me happy. And so if anyone comes in and they aren't very polite, then they see this so nice to be home. They might laugh at it, but I think it's really important. You know, the woman is supposed to guard and guide the home. That's one thing you can do for guarding and guiding it, is to make sure that it has a good presentation, a good reputation, a good feeling all around. And you could use, you know, suit yourself. Don't do everything I do, but suit yourself. You know what is the best thing for your home. And I think that since the family spends so much time there, it ought to be better than anywhere else. It ought to be more comfortable. It ought to be more beautiful. And it ought to be more reinforcing. So now when I was looking at, I like to watch videos sometimes on how to bring a home that's old and that's kind of broken down, how these people are repairing it, how they are bringing it up from wreckage. And what I mean by wreckage is when the home has been abandoned or it has been neglected, what they did to bring it up from wreckage. And I got the idea that, well, you know, every time you clean your house, you are bringing it up from wreckage. And It's just a beautiful thing to do, and it's interesting that when the home is neglected or abandoned, it begins to break down more, even though nobody's attacking it with a sledgehammer, nobody's throwing uh, dirt on it. It just deteriorates without the human beings in. It's very interesting, isn't it? It just deteriorates when no one is in it. But when you're in it and you're sweeping and you're dusting and you're putting little signs around and you're loving it and you're appreciating it, it's amazing how that comes alive. It's almost like there's a spirit there, isn't it? It's almost as if the home itself has a personality and it likes to be looked after. So bring your home back from wreckage by sweeping, by cleaning and arranging, and yes, even decorating. I know there are people who have looked down on this idea of decorating, but we're in an era where it is available, it is possible. Now, it used to be that all you could find back in the olden days was you could buy curtains. You could, I don't know where we got our furniture because I don't remember seeing a furniture store when I was growing up. I think probably our father just kind of built things to sit on. You could get chairs, regular chairs, not easy chairs. And sometimes you could get kind of a grandmotherly type rocking chair with a little skirt around it, and you could get colonial style things, but usually they were quite expensive unless you got them secondhand. Well, now we're entering an era where everybody can have something affordable and beautiful, and that's a lovely thing to be able to do that. So now I wanted to talk a little bit about hospitality because I was watching I was watching another video on, someone had done a video on how to act when you're around people who are very well off or rich, and you know, when you're invited to eat. And one of the things they used to say was to eat something before you go, and because it wasn't polite, you know, to be devouring their food. But I wanted to say that in the country and at churches, and I'm a preacher's wife, so I will tell you this, those potlucks and those church dinners, and also in my home, when I prepare food, I want you to come with an appetite. I want you to be hungry, and it's considered the opposite. It's very rude not to eat. It's very rude to be on a diet and not eat at all. And I have had several wonderful high teas in my home where the ladies were invited and they didn't eat anything because every one of them was on a special diet and I didn't know it. And so none of the foods suited their diet, but they did drink the hot tea. That's the only thing that matters, isn't it? And so when you come to eat at a family's home or a church event, or somebody who just as a friend invites you, they want you to eat. They want you to have an appetite. They don't want you to stop and have something on the way over at one of the fast food restaurants. They really do want you to come and they want you to eat. So it's just the opposite for us down here in the lower class that food is supplied so that you can eat. And we want you to be hungry. So I also wanted to talk to you a little bit about something that I did with homeschooling. I know some of you like to hear about it, and I know that not everyone was able to be a homeschooler, but I will tell you what I did at my home. Now, I don't have the graph paper with me. Do you know what graph paper is? Graph paper is the paper that has the squares in it, and and when my children were young, we used to get, when the first Victoria magazines came out, the last 2 pages had a floor plan in it of a house. And our children would look at those floor plans, and their father had graph paper, and he'd give them a tablet of graph paper. It came in a package of 5, and they'd each have a tablet, and they would try to draw the floor plan of the house we were living in. And I gave them each, here's what I gave them. I gave the boys a tape, measuring tape here, and the girls got one of these sewing ones. I just gave them what I had. And what they did is, in order to use the graph paper, they went around measuring things. They'd measure the door, they'd measure the length of the floor. They'd measure an entryway. They'd go in and measure a little room, and they had so much fun measuring everything and writing it all down. And their father taught them he knew a little bit about architecture and design, and they taught them how to represent how thick the walls were, and they spent hours drawing on these pads of graph paper. And these things were kind of nice because they got an idea of how the world worked by everywhere we went, they'd measure something. And they went through that stage, the measuring stage, and maybe yours did too. They just loved to measure. But I just was reminded that as I was putting this away today, thinking, I believe we use those, yes. And of course, I didn't know at the time that I was doing anything interesting or important, but I just gave them each one of these, and it's interesting to see how they used it, how they measured things. And then the other thing I wanted to tell you about, I hope I've got everything here that I was going to do. Okay, letters, writing letters. Now, of course, I write to my grandchildren, and that takes a lot of time. So if some of you haven't had a letter from me, I've now got 10 grandchildren, and I write to them. So it takes a long time. So I wanted to tell you something about writing letters because I hope they're listening, because I wanted to show you something. This is the envelope, and this is the letter. Okay. Now, this is the greeting. This is the heading and the greeting. And when you fold this letter, it has to fit in this envelope. So what you do is you lay the paper beside the envelope like this, and you fold it up so that you know that that's going to fit in the envelope. You fold it up about like that and fold it into thirds. You can just measure it, just kind of eye it and measure it on the envelope. Okay, so now you know how to do that. But here's something you might not know. When you insert this in the envelope, this flap here with the greeting on it, it goes over there, and it goes like this in the envelope because, let me show you what will happen. You don't put it the other way. You don't put it upside down. You put it where that flap goes on the outside like that. Okay, so then Mima or Mama or Grandma, she opens it and she pulls out the letter toward her. She pulls it toward her. She opens it up, and that comes right open like that, and she can read the greeting right away. So don't be shoving that in upside down, inside out. The other thing too that I wanted to warn you about is if you've got a second page, the second page goes behind the first page. You don't finish writing on the first page. I mean, I know you're writing, you're putting this behind, you're writing on it. You don't sign it and then fold it like this. There won't be any greeting because it'll open up on the second page. So you put your second page behind your first page. You fold them together at the same time so that the folds will match. You hold up the envelope to see if that's going to fit in there. And you fold it up like that. And you make sure the greeting is flapped over like that. And then you slide it into the envelope. Now, people have forgotten this because no one's writing letters, but you slide it into the envelope like that. Grandma takes it out, and when she, and this will be facing her, she'll open it up, and there's the greeting. So that's really, really important. It's kind of hard to figure out if you've got several pieces of paper and you can't find page one because they've got page one just crammed in there, and then they've got it folded wrong, and you don't know how to make head nor tails of it, okay? So one thing that I might do in a letter to my grandchild is I might make a bookmark and include a bookmark. I like to put something in there, or I'll put a few stamps so that they can write back. So I'll put a bookmark in there. And one thing you can do with bookmarks, now they send me bookmarks. They're easy to make. They're made from leftover cardstock when you're making cards and you're cutting them. But one thing that I like about bookmarks, I read cookbooks, and I find that I need to mark the pages of the recipes that are my favorite instead of trying to flip through and find that recipe. There's always a marker in it. Another thing too is I love beautiful home interiors magazines and good good magazines like Victoria and Tea Time, and there'll be a favorite page there that I want to look at again. I'll stick a bookmark in it. I don't have enough bookmarks, so I just cut ribbon and stick it in there. And I never take them out. I always leave them there. In fact, in my bookshelf that I'm cleaning out now, 20 years later, I'm opening books and finding a bookmark and thinking, I wonder why I liked that book. And I would mark a page with a bookmark and read it, and then it would come back to me why I marked that. Okay, so I've done that, and I've shown you all the things. So if you've got something you need to do, I've been talking for 25 minutes and you've had to look at everything, so I hope to read you something and also to talk a little bit more. And so I want to talk to you about, we're going to go on to the people part, because I just want to talk about our own habits right now, and that is with our children. You know, when I was growing up, if a child was just sitting at his dining room table and he was drawing a picture, his parent would say, "Oh, you're going to be a great artist." Or if they were singing, "You're going to be a great singer." Or if they could play an instrument, "Oh, you're going to be a great violinist," or something like that. And it occurred to me that it would have been more valuable if they had been told, be sure to learn to draw well, because you will want to draw for your children. I don't know how many times I was sitting in a church service trying to keep a child quiet, and they would say, "Draw a house, draw dog, draw," and I would draw and do a terrible job at it, wishing that I had had some basic drawing lessons so that I could draw them: a house, a dog, a car, a pony, and a flower, and that would have been the best thing for me. But instead, the burden was put on me and a lot of other children, and especially in school. You've got to be this great artist, and show your art in an art show and everything like that, which is very hard and not as achievable. Now, if your children want to be artists, I would suggest that especially if you're homeschooled, probably easier. I would suggest that you teach them. You can buy books, you can buy curriculum that has all that in it, and you can teach them to draw and paint, and you can have an art show in your own home. You can get these folding screens that have, I guess you would say, frames in them and pockets in them. You've seen it. And you could put their artwork in that, and you could have a gallery, and you could actually show it to each other. And when ours were home, we had a wonderful time. We had dinner theater, we had music, we had that we did ourselves. We had storytelling evening, we had poetry, we had singing, we had fashion shows too. We had a country western fashion show, and the boys wore their cowboy stuff, and the girls wore all the cowgirl stuff and hats and things, and what a wonderful time we had. And so, I mean, I wish I could still do it, but it'd feel a bit silly. Yesterday when I did a video the day before, and I was talking about how my house was like a train. Actually, I missaid something. My house is not as wide as a double wide. It's as wide as a single wide. But part of it is as wide as a train. And it has a narrow hall like a train. And so a friend of mine called me, and she said, "My dear, you sound a little bit off. Are you sure you're okay in the head?" And of course, she was just teasing me. She said, "You acted like you thought you were on a train." Ladies, the difference between being senile and not is that I know I am not on a train. I was just playing, just for fun. So, no, I don't think I'm on a train, but I just said it's like a train, okay? So, now I want to talk about, and the singing too. If I had been taught better to sing and taught the notes and had a purpose, but of course there were in a class of children, only one or two could really make it into the next stage and go on to opportunities to sing. But you know what? If especially us girls, if we've been told you're going to be able to sing to your children and that the children would like it, and if you were told that you weren't much of a singer, you didn't have much of a voice, well, boy, were you surprised when you had a baby and you could sing to the baby and the baby liked it, and your children liked for you to sing. They didn't care if you didn't sound like a great singer. So we should need to teach our children that they can teach their children what they know instead of giving them, and of course if they want to go further, that's okay, but I think sometimes we think that something is greater than our own family, than our own life, that we have got to somehow serve the whole world with our talents. But you know, if you serve your family and you serve your children, you really are serving the whole world, because what you're doing is you're creating a contentment, and they won't be a burden on other people, and they also influence other people and spread happiness around. So now I want to talk a little bit about a poem that I had, and then I want to tell you a couple more things. See, I finally got smart and put the poem on here. And I remember this old poem that I had heard many years ago, and I finally looked it up. And it was called Give Lavishly, Give Abundantly by Helen Steiner Rice. And I remember in the old days we used to get this little paper in the mail on the homestead, and it always had one of her poems. And this one was the one that we kind of grew up on. And this is kind of American too. You know, they have this entrepreneurial sort of spirit even in the church, where they believe that they're blessed, you know, if they are kind, and they don't do it for that reason, but that it's good for everyone all around. It benefits everybody. So this is called Give Lavishly, Give Abundantly. So I hope that you're working and you're finding something to do. I've spoken for 31 minutes, but only for about 10 minutes without something to show you. So I hope that you have found something that you can accomplish. Okay, so give lavishly, give abundantly. I'm not sure what year this was written. The more you give, the more you get. The more you laugh, the less you fret. The more you do unselfishly, the more you live abundantly. The more of everything you share, the more you'll always have to spare. The more you love, the more you'll find that life is good and friends are kind. For only what we give away enriches us from day to day. That just was a precious poem to me when I was growing up. And my mother taught me how to read a poem and not pause till you got to the end of the sentence. Now, the poems are written with lines, you know, very poetically and in order and evenly, so that the meter is even, but you don't read them that way. If there is no comma at the end of a line, you just keep reading. And this is how you learn to read poetry. So I'll just read this again according to the commas, okay? The more you give, the more you get. The more you laugh, the less you fret. The more you do unselfishly, the more you live abundantly. So the more you love, the more you'll find that life is good and friends are kind. See, but it's written like this: the more you love, the more you'll find, and then it goes on to the next line, that life is good and friends are kind. But this is how you read it: the more you love, the more you'll find that life is good and friends are kind. Okay, so you learn to read poetry to your children, and they will absolutely love it. Poetry has a rhythm to it that settles the heart and the mind. Poetry is really, really important. And sometime I'll come on here and tell you about the Hebrew poetry. Well, I can tell you right now. You read Psalms, it doesn't rhyme according to the sound of the word like ours do, like fret and get and lavishly and abundantly. What it does is it rhymes in thought. So it'll have two lines of the same thought, same kind of thought, written two different ways. Then it will have a summarizing line at the end of it, but it would all be, it's called poetry, but yet it doesn't rhyme. So we have rhyming poetry, but in the Bible it doesn't. So, but that's a different kind of, you can look all that up too. Okay, so now I want to read another poem. This is the one I've been looking for years, and it finally came up on the web, and it was written by, and I learned this years ago, Wilfred A. Peterson. See, some of these people weren't real famous, but my mother liked the poems, and they would come in magazines or books called Ideals magazines, and they were all about the home, and they had people would submit poems, and they were by people that were ordinary. They weren't by famous published authors. And the art in there was just by ordinary people. And so I really loved the collection. I do have a couple of those magazines. They're called Ideals. Okay. So this one is called Slow Me Down, Lord. This is good for you. This is good for you because you can get so much to do, isn't there? There's so much to do, and it can't all be done in a day. Like I had great plans for today, but after the ladies' Bible class, I had to clean up the teacups, and then I was going to sew, but then I had to go get some groceries while it was still light, and then I had to do some laundry, and we've been up really early this morning, sweeping the floor, getting the tea table ready. And, you know, it's getting dark, and I still haven't got it all done. So, I want to read to you, Slow me down, Lord. Slow me down, Lord. Ease. Now, nothing in here rhymes, I don't think. But it's just written like prose. I guess prose is more by thought, not by the sounding rhymes. Okay, so. Slow me down, Lord. Ease the pounding of my heart by the quieting of my mind. Steady my hurried pace with a vision of the eternal march of time. Give me, amid the confusion of the day, the calmness of the eternal hills. Break the tension of my nerves and muscles with the soothing music of the singing streams that live in my memory. Help me to know the magical restoring power of sleep. Oh, I could talk about that. Teach me the art of taking minute vacations, or of slowing down to look at a flower, to chat with a friend, to pat a dog, to read a few lines of a good book. Slow me down, Lord, and inspire me to send my roots deep into the soil of life's enduring values, that I may grow toward the stars of my greater destiny. You know, that slow me down, and there have been other poems called Slow Me Down. If you find them, let me know. That is so important. And the idea of having these minute vacations, so important at home, because if you'll learn to relax in your work, if you just learn to enjoy it and relax, putter around, move some things around, clean some, don't sweep and clean with a vengeance, with a attitude of hard work, but enjoy it. And when you start to enjoy it, you do it with grace, and you do it with enjoyment, and you actually start to like it. You shouldn't approach your work as though it is not desirable, but you should be happy to do it. And if you do that, give your little girl or boy a broom, a small broom. You can still get those small brooms, and have them sweep alongside of you and enjoy it. It's an activity for them. And so I just think that is so important. Now, one more thing I want to talk about, and I've been talking for nearly 40 minutes, and I hope I can keep going so that you'll have something to do. I think this is going to be a little bit shorter. It's getting dark. The light is getting very dim. Now, we want to talk about people. Oh, one thing I want to talk about, if I want to talk about people, is I'll share something with you about us. One of the children, I will give one of the children some birthday money in a card, maybe $20 bill in a card. And I'll give that to them for their birthday. And then when my birthday comes along, they'll give it back. And then I'll give it to another child, and they'll give it back, and we just each keep getting $20. Nobody spends it. And we just keep passing the same $20 bill around because they just want to hang on to it so they'll have something to give. So I quit. I mean, I go ahead and give them the $20 bill. It's just a token thing now. And Mr. S and I have started passing each other back and forth the same card all the time because I don't know, we're so busy you can't go out and get a card, or because I make cards, it's I don't know. So I'll dig up the old card that I gave to him last year and give it to him again and sign it again and put the date on it. So I pass the same card back and forth. But that wouldn't suit young people. So I've decided, start getting them a gift and go ahead and give them the $20 bill, because they won't pass the gift back. So that's what's going on here, and that's just part of the people thing here. So Now let's talk about the people, everybody loves this one, the people that constantly criticize and complain. It just occurred to me the other day that this kind of person, they thrive on that because when they stop doing it, when they're not criticizing or complaining or thinking something is wrong or in a panic all the time, they feel uneasy. They have filled their lives with that so much that the emptiness drives them crazy when they try to stop doing it. They have to learn to fill their life with positive things. So they need to learn to substitute uneasy feeling with a thought of stability. Think of something in your life that's stable, that you're glad about. And also, they need to start substituting criticism for some positive praise. If they don't do that, then they miss their old selves. They feel uneasy if they are not criticizing. They feel uneasy if they are not complaining, because that fills their brain. And so that is part of their problem. And we used to say, don't complain, criticize, or condemn, the 3 C's. Complain, criticize, or condemn. And we're talking about the home. It just runs down the home and tears it down. If their mother is being criticized, if the family is being, if the parents are being too critical, and so don't criticize, complain, or condemn, but try to build up and try to solve problems. And there are some people that just want to complain about a problem but never fix it. And this is part of our national pastime, is to fix things. Somebody complains about something, we want to fix it. We want to make it better for them. And so that's how we live, is that we want to find a need and fill it, find a fault and fix it, and find things to rejoice about every day. These days have been given to us by a gracious God, and I think the way you dress, the way you speak, the way you keep your house, the way that you act around other people has a reflection of the God that you serve. And I'm sure people say, that person is so critical and complaining and condemning. I wonder what kind of God they have. So you have to realize that what you're doing is you're selling people on the idea of a faith. And so with all the stuff going around in the news and everything, I never buy into it, because I am elderly now, and I have lived so long. I've been through all the viruses, all the financial disasters, all the supposed depressions, all the things that were supposed to crash, all the climate this and climate that, and all the storms, and I've been through it. And now I just get on with my work, because it doesn't help me get my dishes done when I've got one eye on the news. And a lot of people are raising children, and they're going to regret the fact that they raised their children with a divided heart. The children didn't really know what was going on, and these people got tuned in to all this news, all this media hype, and wasted years and years, 10 years of their children's time, when the children never knew their mother being a happy, whole, content, stable person, because the news kept her hyped up. She was always listening to that, always worried about everything. That's not a good atmosphere for children. That's not a good atmosphere for your home. The media news is the bad news. The Bible is the good news. And your home and your family and what comes out of your mouth ought to be good things, good news. And so I just try to take a media fast, for a couple of days. We can't help knowing, because you can't hardly run into somebody in the grocery store with, or you see a title on a newsstand or something. You can't hardly. But the less you hear of it, the more positive of a person you will be. Many of us can remember having to go into bomb shelters or get under a desk or something like that. It was just ridiculous, and especially putting fear in children, I think that's just abusive. Children ought to grow up, have a happy, carefree childhood, free from worry and heavy responsibility. And I think it's very, very bad to introduce them to fear. The only thing that they should do right now when they're young is learn to abide by their mother's guidance. And your job is to guide them and not be so filled with worry. How are you going to feel if you look back and 10 years later you have a 10-year-old and they've never known you to be happy and carefree and content, and they've always seen you upset? That's not good. So, and the other thing too is you can let out, it won't be just the media, but other people. There might be someone in your family that's just living badly and bringing shame on the home, and maybe giving you a bit of trouble and challenging your values and criticizing you. You can't let them immobilize you and run you and get your mind going and going and going. And you can get so involved in someone in the family who's gone astray, so to speak, that you forget to live your own life and live for your children and for what you want to be doing. And so it's not good for you to be upset. Just cast your care on the Lord, for He cares for you, and give it all to Him to take care of. Do what you can, but what you can't do, let the Lord take care of. So now I don't think I have anything else to talk about, and I have been here 46 minutes, and I hope you got something done. According to my calculations, you could have got a room cleaned up. You could have done the kitchen, got that all cleaned up. You might have been able to fold your laundry. Now, a lot of the lists that you're sending me on my comments, which go to my blog for the comments, I'll leave a link on the video. You really should be watching the video on my site because that's where it's embedded, and it's more pleasant. It doesn't have other things on it, and it's all pleasant to look at. So please go to my blog to watch these videos, okay? Because then you'll see what else is on the post and the extra pictures and anything else that I put on there. And so I wanted to make sure that you are getting something done at least. And there's been something said about wishing that they were 10 minutes long, you know, because they're hard to. You're not supposed to be sitting here watching them, to tell you the truth. I know some of you are not feeling well, or you're sitting in your chair and you just really need an extra voice, or some of you just want to calm down a little bit and go to sleep, which I don't know how you can with some of the stuff I talk about. But I hope that you do something and don't just sit here and watch me. So one of the reasons that it's more than 10 minutes is it takes a while to set it up, kind of look at the background, get some junk out of the way, and get my hair fixed. And I don't want to just sit here for 10 minutes. I wanted to do more, you know, a little more time for the effort that it has taken me. Plus, the fact that no one is home right now and they're going to be gone for an hour and no one's going to come in the door and no one's going to disturb me. I want to talk as much as I can while they're gone. And it's very hard for me to find time because I'm sitting here where the traffic way is, and it's usually quite busy. Now, sometime I will try to broadcast from my kitchen, but my kitchen is so used and so busy, it never is presentable enough. I know I look in these videos and people have these beautiful state-of-the-art kitchens. Well, mine's just an old broken down thing. It's just from an old house, and it's always used. I mean, there's always something going on in there, and so, you know, baking stuff is out and everything. It's not really a very nice background, so, but I will try to do my kitchen sometime, and I will try to talk in my kitchen. So ladies, please leave me a comment. Thank you very much for those of you who have sent a few dollars, and that's such a sweet sacrificial offering, and it's done great good, I will tell you, and it has helped me a lot, so I appreciate it. And so ladies, please leave a comment. I know you're not leaving as many comments, probably get tired of telling me the same thing. But if you leave a comment and list some of the things that you got done while you were listening, other people who want to know, okay, what am I supposed to be doing all day at home, might read that comment and say, oh, yes, I can carry my device around, I can make my bed, and I can sweep the floor, and I can do things. About the only thing you can't do is vacuum, and because you can't hear. So please leave a comment and tell me what all you did, and I love you, and I thank you so much for coming and visiting today and allowing me into your home. Isn't this a great time to be alive? I think it's just wonderful, because now I can come and see you, and you can see me, and we can interact without disturbing one another in their home. And I'm not going to get in your way while you're working, and I don't have to drag a whole big box of teaching material along with me, and I don't have to pack a bag and get on an airplane. You don't have to pay my way to a seminar, and I can stay home like the Bible teaches women to, to guard and guide the home. And I didn't want to get on one of those circuits where you run from here to there and then you're never home. So this is just perfect. I just love it, and I'm so glad to be here at this time in the world. So thank you, ladies, and I will see you next time. Goodbye.